Hello everybody, welcome back. This is Mystic Games coming at you with a video game review today of Against the Storm. These are going to be obviously my personal opinions. For a short, review, I like the game. I've sunk 260 hours into it, but if you guys kind of want to have more of a breakdown of the exact score that I'm going to give and why, obviously continue. For anyone interested in an RTS, I think this one's very unique. I think it has good roguelike features, and I think it's a solid game to play. Anyways, let's jump into the review here. I'll just hit play so you guys can see I'm on, just currently playing just started a map, so I haven't done a layout or anything yet. Playing on Prestige 1. Anyways, so Against the Storm. Gameplay. Gameplay is broken into two parts here. You have your main overworld, which is where the Citadel is at, which is where your roguelike features are, your decision making for your caravan embarkation, all that stuff's going on. And then you have the actual embarkation, I'm probably butchering that word, where you create your settlement, which brings you to this screen, which is your, what I would argue is your main source of gameplay for the game. So that being said, the gameplay is fantastic. You build your settlement, you go through the seasons, certain seasons, you have your first season, which is the drizzle season, then you have your clearance season, and then you have your storm. Then it starts over again. The game has been just really good in gameplay. The different species add a little bit different play style to every run, which makes it more interesting. With the addition of DLC in the future, which they've already discussed, hopefully that adds a little more. Please on fishing, and maybe bears as a species for that. That sounds like it would be an interesting idea to me. That being said, we're getting off topic with that, right? So gameplay is really good. You beat this, you get some resources. You get some seals, which you can use to do the final quest for the overworld before it resets itself. And then you spend your points in the Citadel at the end of every settlement. So every time I finish a settlement, like right here, I get my rewards, or I fail and I still get some rewards, but not as good as I would. And I can go to the Citadel, upgrade my Citadel to make my next settlement a little bit easier to complete. The gameplay loop is fantastic, and overall I enjoy it. So I'm going to give that probably a 9 out of 10 for the gameplay. For game length is subject to many things. It's subject to your RNG, it's subject to your play style, it's subject to difficulty. So you have different difficulties with different rewards. I'm gonna oh my god, I should have looked. Settler, Pioneer. I want to say it's Veteran, and then it's Viceroy are the standard difficulties, and then you go into your Prestige difficulties, which is essentially it's Viceroy with additional rules. Like obviously, I have 4 more reputation requirements here. And the orders become more difficult for the first prestige level, but it also gives me additional steel. The argument, I guess, would be if it takes more time to complete, is the additional steel worth it, or should I just play on Viceroy if I'm looking to actually complete the final mission? But that would be something you had to have weigh out. Gameplay length, though, is very subjective in this game, I feel like. This can take you anywhere, I would say, from probably... And again, you pause the game a lot, I would argue, in this too. So you're gonna if you add in all the time you're pausing and trying to like min-max, it's probably gonna be additional time. For anyone who can play this game and telling me they never pause and they can just play it, congratulations. I pause a lot. I generally don't play anywhere above 1.5 speed even. I generally play on regular speed most of the time. Very rare do I boost the time unless I'm waiting for something specific. And I pause quite a bit. So I would say the game length is probably 45 minutes to 2.5 hours tops for just bad RNG for each settlement. And then obviously the Citadel doesn't take long. You're probably going to have an idea of what upgrade you want every time you look at it. So we'll say the overworld probably takes you 5 minutes to decide. So for game length, it's pretty good for an RTS, especially. It can run a little longer, but it can also run good length. It's single player, so yeah. We'll give game length probably an 8. I feel like the prestige levels are interesting, and I think they add a layer to the game to challenge yourself. But for anyone who doesn't want to play those, you don't have to play them. It's more of a, it gives you more experience in the game and makes you better, is what I would say. Arguably, I like Veteran the most. I think Veteran difficulty personally is my favorite to play on. I think it's enough of a challenge for me most of the time where I don't feel like I'm uncomfortable, but I feel like I could lose. Whereas Viceroy, I feel like there are many times where I get to the point where I'm like, oh my god, I might lose. And then I tend to turn around and I tend to win it, but it's just, I feel like there's a lot more pressure there. So, next we'll talk about the sound of the game. The sound of the game, very briefly, for what it is, it's obviously a RTS. It's very good. The ambiance around this game is really good. All of the zones play a little bit differently. They all have a little bit different resources that you can gather. Like, you can look at the trees here. You're going to probably get a lot of wood. You're going to get maybe some insects, some roots, and maybe some plant fibers. And you can kind of look at, the trees. I think in the dying wood area, too, there are actually trees that are harder to cut through. You can just look at what your resources give you, and different resources per map. Hold on. So these are the resources on this map. These are the effects of the map. I think they did a really good job at making different maps. I would like to see an additional map type. If they do add ponds that has like good, like average or higher pond rates. But other than that, I think the sound and the immersion of the game are very strong. I'm going to do those two together. Normally I do immersion separately. I think everything the game does, both on the overworld and on the settlement screen here, are very strong. And I'm going to say it's a solid 9. For graphics are good for an RTS. It's fine. The biggest thing I would have to say with graphics, and it's not in the graphics in the sense of them being the graphics themselves, would be the buildings. There are buildings that are very, let me just click here and see if we got one. There are buildings that have very similar, they look very similar. So like the artisan and the apothecary, there are other buildings that have the similar roof structure and style of these that look very similar. And other than that, I would say the graphics and the look of the game are very good. I wish there were slight variations on the buildings that look similar, like maybe change the tile color to red on one of these, or change this kind of from a purple and a blue to a green and a red. I'm just throwing out random colors just to make it slightly different. Although I do believe they're kind of supposed to go with correlating species, because normally these tend to be good with harpies, and these tend to be good with like foxes. That being said, graphics are good for what the game is. I'm going to give the graphics like a 7. This will probably be my lowest rating for the whole game. I think they look good overall, but I know some people think of graphics, they think, ultra high definition, everything has to look like it's real. This game looks good, but I don't think it has that realistic look to it that some people like to have in their games. I personally don't really care, but I would say it's probably a 7. Replay value is extremely high. It's a roguelike game. If you're looking to put some time into a game, this is the game for you. I've put almost 300 hours into this game at this point, and I will keep on putting more in, even though I probably won't do as many videos for it. So replay value is high. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of different ways to play. As you play, you're going to like things and then learn things that you like more, and you're going to change your play style probably. I think there are multiple ways to win this game. So, replay value, definitely a 10. It's very strong on that. So, to end this video, what I want to do is I kind of want to rank the game by its type, which would be like an RTS city builder game. And we're going to lean more into the RTS roguelike factors of the game than the city builder portion. I would argue that the settlement construction, there is no combat in it, so it's almost more like a city builder in a sense, but there's also factors of deadliness that are a little bit different than most city builders that I've played, the way they have it set up, and I think it brings a really unique play style to the game. So if you're looking at this like an RTS, and I'm thinking about a ton of different RTSs, there's so many now with indie games coming out, and just so many other game types. You don't just have AAA developers anymore, which I think is fantastic, by the way. I'd probably rate this like an 8 or a 9. I think the overall gameplay is very good for what it is, and I believe it's unique enough in a way, especially with the roguelike feature after, that it sets itself apart from a lot of other RTS city builder roguelike games. My overall ranking for this game, if I were to put a number on this, and this is compared to most other games that I've played, I would probably give it like an 8. I think it's a solid 8. I really enjoy playing it. This is one of those games that I will put a good amount of time in, and due to the difficulty changes, there are times where if I'm not trying to achieve the seal, that I will just play on lower difficulties just because it's fun to play. But I do tend to aim for seals in particular now, more than I was in the beginning. I was more trying to get the game down than to actually advance. So anyways, this is my review on Against the Storm. I hope you guys enjoy the game. I would definitely recommend that you pick it up. It's not super expensive. You can get it on sale, every once in a while, and obviously that's even better. They do plan on making DLC. They've talked about it. I'm looking forward to seeing what the new species is, and I'm looking forward to seeing if they add fishing holes, because I want fishing holes. Anyways, until the next video, everybody, I appreciate you showing up. This has been Mystic Games. I'll catch you in the next one. Later.